Hey guys, Monochrome here. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. It's genuinely good to have you. Today we're going to take a look at the Condor Tool and Knife Desert Romper. That's right, the Desert Romper. I don't run Condor. I don't come up with the names for their models. So what do you get with their Desert Romper? Well, you get something that initially looks like it would be ideal for a modern day soldier on a desert battlefield, but don't let its looks or its desert tan coating fool you. This is actually a traditional bushcraft knife. Blade 4.5 inches long, overall length 9.5 inches as usual. Specs in the description box below. But this is a drop point blade, and despite the coating, definitely a bushcraft knife. Just happens to be a bushcraft knife with a coating. And ironically, this is 1075 high carbon steel. Now that's going to immediately turn some people off. I get it. Nowadays, if you get a really good high carbon knife, you expect it to be 1095, but Condor is known for using mainly 1075. Although in this past year, maybe two, I believe they're starting to use 1095. If you're not sure, chances are you have a Condor knife, high carbon steel, safe bet that it's 1075. So if that doesn't turn you off, let's take a closer look. Now the thing I like about the coating is that unlike certain other brands, and I'm just going to say it, SE knives, the logo is also coated. On SE knives, if you buy a black coated blade, there's a big obnoxious SE knives logo, and it's a silver logo. That is not a silver coating. That is the bare high carbon blade, and the finish is basically chiseled out to create their logo, which to me is idiotic. But I still buy their knives. Thankfully, you can get desert tan coated SE knives with a black coating in order to create their logo, instead of a complete black coating that is etched out bare metal to make their logo. So yeah, that's a nice way of inducing rust, but Condor did it right. As you can see, there's the brand name, there's their logo, and even though you can read it quite easily, the coating is not carved out in order to create the logo. Gee, what a concept. The one thing I don't like, the coating does not extend to the spine of the blade, which really makes no sense. Condor is literally the only company out there making high carbon steel knives, and on their models that have a coating, the spine of the blade doesn't have it, and the coating does not extend to the portion of the high carbon steel that is in between the micarta handle slabs. So the sides of your blade won't get rust on it, but the top and the portion with the handle slabs on it can, which makes no sense to me. But that's just me. And I could understand leaving this completely uncoated if this were a 90-degree spine that you could use for striking a ferro rod and throwing sparks. The problem? This is a little too smooth. This definitely does not feel like a 90-degree spine. Not at all. It's a little too comfortable as I glide my index finger across it. Too comfortable, a little too smooth. This is not 90 degrees. You might still be able to throw a few sparks, possibly, but this is not 90 degrees, and that's what you want if you're going to use the spine of your blade for throwing sparks with a ferro rod or fire steel. So that's the first issue. I mean, if you're going to leave this uncoated, you might as well have a 90-degree spine. Otherwise, coat the spine. Now, let's take a look at the tip. As you can see, it's... Let's see if my camera can pick that up. Okay. Yeah. Well, my camera does not seem to want to pick that up. The tip is a little thick. This is not a needle tip. It is definitely a little thick, but a lot of people prefer that on a bushcraft knife, and that's what it is. I mean, I would not advise buying this if you're getting it for yourself right before you're going to get deployed, or if you're buying it for a family member who's a soldier soon to be deployed. Although the overall look might make this seem like an ideal soldier's knife, it's really a bushcraft blade. It really is. Now let's take a look at the handle. These are micarta handle slabs, and I'll admit the texture looks very rough, which is what you want with micarta handle slabs on a knife. That's going to see plenty of use. You don't want it slick, you don't want it slippery. Now on camera, these handle scales look rougher than they do in real life. And unfortunately, they're a lot smoother in real life than what you're seeing both on camera and in real life. They look a bit rough in real life. They look quite a bit rough on camera. In reality, this handle is almost as smooth as glass. Not kidding. Don't let the looks fool you. I was really surprised when I got this knife. This handle is almost as smooth as polished glass. Not even joking. Yes, it looks rough. It looks well textured. It's not. This thing surprised the heck out of me. It really did. I mean, the thing with micarta handle scales is you can polish them until they're almost as smooth as glass. Most companies choose not to. Essie and Ontario, with their Rat series of fixed blade knives, both companies use micarta handle scales, but they leave the scales rough. You get very little polishing from those two companies. From Condor, you get a ton of polishing and you end up with a handle that is as smooth as glass. Almost as smooth as glass. You do not want that. The handle contours are quite nice. This feels really good in the hand when you're holding it, but when you're using it, you really don't want something that is this smooth. That's where Condor messed up. They over-polished the handle scales, unfortunately. This cheap-looking lanyard, I actually put that on there, and I'm going to show you guys why right now. Let's take a look at the sheath. Now, this is a gorgeous brown leather sheath that looks significantly darker on camera for some odd reason. Yeah, but this is easily a couple of shades lighter than what you're seeing on camera. But it is absolutely gorgeous. The stitching is excellent. It has rivets, hollow rivets at the stress points. Absolutely excellent, gorgeous, gorgeous leather sheath. Condor's leather sheaths are some of the best I've ever seen in the industry. Absolutely freaking gorgeous leather sheaths. And this one is no exception. However, there is a problem with them, a huge problem. If you plan on, for example, buying this knife and you plan on going on a camping trip in about a week or so you get express shipping and you think you'll be able to use this knife, no. Condor does something that is very old-fashioned and that you simply do not see anymore in the industry when it comes to leather sheaths. They make the sheaths, and when they make them, they pair them up with the knife, and they ship them in the box without inserting the knife into the leather sheath and leaving it that way for about 2 or 3 weeks so that the sheath can form around the knife. What does that mean? It means that when you get your knife, and it doesn't matter which Condor you get, if it has a leather sheath, this is something you need to watch out for. You get the knife and the sheath separately in the box. What you have to do is first examine to make sure there's no issues with the knife. Take the knife, put in a bit of effort, push it into the sheath until it can't go any further, and then what you have to do is leave the knife alone for 2 or 3 weeks. Not even kidding. Leave the knife alone for 2 or 3 weeks. 1 full month is even better. Let the sheath form around the shape of the knife. Because if you don't, you are never getting this knife out of this sheath when it is brand new. The very first time you insert the knife into the sheath, good luck getting it out. You better be Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime if you want to hold on to the sheath and yank this knife out of it. Good luck with that. I actually put this lanyard here so I can wrap my hand around it, grip it, and then yank it. And honestly, that's dangerous. I realized what I was doing, and I stopped doing it. I decided, you know what, this is ridiculous. Let me just leave the knife in the sheath for a couple of weeks. Let it form around the sheath. Let the sheath form around the knife, and then I'll be able to pull it out. And as you can see, now I can very easily pull it out of the sheath, no problem. I can insert it easily, goes in there, pull it out very easily. No issues, no headaches, no problem. That is not the case when this knife arrived. In fact, the situation was so bad, I seriously considered taking another one of my knives and just completely cutting open this sheath just so I could get the Desert Romper out of it, and then maybe finding a custom maker to make me either a leather sheath or a Kydex sheath so I wouldn't have that issue. But then I decided, you know what, why ruin such an absolutely gorgeous leather sheath? I just needed to let the sheath form around the knife to get rid of the horrendous vacuum effect, and then I knew I'd be able to pull it out easily anytime I wanted to. Problem is, that's a process you can't rush. So I decided, let me do that. Let's see what happens. And of course it works. Nowadays, every single other company that makes quality knives, they will make sure to form their sheaths around the knife before they ship it out to you. Condor doesn't do that. I wish they did. Now this particular sheath uses a Dangler system, as you can see. Unfortunately, there are no snaps, so you can't remove the Dangler portion or the literal D-ring and just carry it on your belt here. I mean, you can if you fold this down and carry it this way, but you can't take the Dangler off. Well, you can, but you'll never be able to use it again. You have to cut it off, unfortunately. I don't advise that. This is a really good, thick leather Dangler. It will accommodate a wide belt, so that's good. And this gorgeous leather sheath, it comes with a fire steel holder. Now it doesn't actually come with a fire steel. This is my Endure. That's N-D-U-R. This is my Endure small fire steel. Now this might be discontinued. However, this particular fire steel loop will accommodate any fire steel with a diameter of 0.25 inch. If you want to use the fire steel loop on this particular knife from Condor, you have to find one whose diameter is going to be 0.25 inch, and then you can use it. This is just a bit of elastic that I put on there, and it really helps. Just insert it in there like this. Sorry about that, that wasn't on camera. Just insert it in there like this. Take the elastic, stretch it down, and there you go. Now this fire steel loop is not going to fall off. It's not going to fall off if it snags on anything. It's good and tight. Now I use this as an emergency fire steel. I will have other options on me for making a fire if I need to, but this is just an emergency option. And worst comes to worst, if you have to, although it's not ideal, you can use the edge of your knife for striking a fire steel. Once again, not ideal, but if you need a fire in a survival situation, you can definitely use it. Now, is this something that I would use as my main knife in a bug out bag? No. It's a little bit too short with a blade at only 4.5 inches. Would I use it as a companion knife in my bug out bag? Well, I generally prefer stainless steel for that purpose, but it could definitely work in that regard. Would I carry this as a soldier if I was deployed to Iraq or Afghanistan? I'd have to swap out that sheath for a Kydex one in desert tan color, and I'd have to wrap that handle with some grip tape. It can be pressed into service, but definitely not ideal. As a bushcraft knife, absolutely. Now, the purists out there in the bushcraft community are not going to like the fact that it's got a coating on both sides of the blade, but other than that, this really is pretty much a traditional bushcraft knife in terms of design and size. So if you're looking for something like that, this might be a good choice. Unfortunately, I can only give it a conditional recommendation. And keep in mind, you will have to break in the sheath when you first get this knife. Okay guys, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time. Please continue to stay safe.